quorum, so we will open the meeting, Fed and State Committee for today. First on the agenda would be requests for bill introductions, and Katie Coble with the Secretary of State's office. Katie, welcome.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I'm Katie Copal, Deputy Assistant Secretary of State for Communications and Policy. I appear before you to respectfully ask for introduction of legislation that updates, clarifies, and eliminates several contradictory and confusing election statutes. The RS number is 21 RS 1725.
Committee, is there any objection to any questions or objections to introducing this bill? Seeing none, the bill will be introduced. Thank you very much for coming today. Today we have a hearing on allowing reciprocity to recognize out-of-state licenses to carry a concealed handgun. Jason, do you have a staff briefing for us?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, House Bill 2058 amends the Personal and Family Protection Act regarding the issuance of licenses to carry concealed handguns in Kansas. Under current law, an individual must be 21 years of age or older to carry a concealed handgun in Kansas. And can do so without a license, but if they want to obtain a license to carry a concealed handgun, they have to be 21 years of age to do so under that act. House Bill 2058 amends 75-7C03. This was the original introduced version of House Bill 2058. And the language in that statute that's being added, it's on page 13 of the bill, is language proposed by the Office of the Attorney General to allow for recognition of licenses to carry concealed handguns that are issued by other jurisdictions. So under these provisions, a non-resident of Kansas could come into Kansas with their concealed carry license issued by, say, Missouri or Michigan, and then carry that concealed handgun in Kansas in accordance with Kansas law for carrying concealed handguns. Likewise, with the recognition of those out-of-state licenses, licenses issued by Kansas would be reciprocally recognized by those other states. And so a Kansas resident having a license to carry a concealed handgun could carry into Missouri or other states that recognize the Kansas license. The House Committee on Federal and State Affairs then amended House Bill 2058 to also authorize the Attorney General to issue a concealed carry authorization document. And this would be utilized by the Attorney General when the Attorney General determines that there are conditions that exist that make it impractical for the Division of Vehicles to issue a physical concealed carry licensure card. Under current law, when you apply for a concealed carry license, then your information, when it's approved, gets sent to the Division of Vehicles, and a identification card is issued to the person showing that they are licensed to carry a concealed handgun. But if there are conditions such as a global pandemic that make it difficult for the Division of Vehicles to issue those cards, then House Bill 2058, as it's currently written, would authorize the Attorney General to issue an authorization document directly to the licensee. That document would serve the same function as a licensure card and would be valid up to 90 days after the conditions that made it impractical to issue a card have ceased to exist. Then the House Committee of the Whole on floor debate further amended House Bill 2058 to include provisions that would authorize the issuance of a provisional concealed carry license. This would be a license issued to individuals who are 18 to 20. Any person under 18 would not be eligible for such license. And the provisional license would have to be obtained by the individual if they wanted to carry a concealed handgun in Kansas. The criminal prohibition against carrying concealed handguns for persons under 21 would still apply, with an exception if the individual held one of these provisional license issued under the Personal and Family Protection Act. And so they would have to have that on their person at any time they wanted to carry a concealed handgun in Kansas. But then there would also be a provisional license that could be recognized by other states through reciprocity to allow the individual who's under 21 to carry their concealed handgun in other states that allow individuals under 21 to do so, such as Missouri. The bill with all of the amendments will go into effect on July 1st of this year if enacted. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Jason. I do have one question before we start with the committee, and that is, do you know what the bill, how the bill passed in the House, what the vote count was?
I can look that up real quick for you.
Okay, thank you. 85-38.
Mr. Chairman, final action in the House was 85-38.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, Senator Reichman.
Thank you, Chairman. One question, how many reciprocities to how many other states would this affect?
I'm gonna have to refer that question to the Attorney General's office, as they're the ones who review the standards for concealed carry with other states and whether ours would match up and be recognized. So I'm gonna have to refer that to the Attorney General's office.
Okay, we'll get the Attorney General. He's not going to be here today, but we do have Mr. Prescott. He can answer that question, perhaps. You yield to the representative, and he is online to be up next after you, so we'll wait till that question from there. Yes, Senator Dietrich.
Thank you. Jason, how does this relate to 18-year-olds in a high school setting? Almost all of our seniors are 18.
There are still prohibitions on carrying weapons in schools. We have the school safety statutes that prohibit carrying firearms into schools. And so even holding a provisional license would not authorize the 18-year-old to carry a concealed handgun into a school during school hours.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions for Jason? Seeing none. Thank you very much, Jason. Our first proponent is Kansas Attorney General, and it is written only. And so the next one we have is Representative Blake Carpenter. Welcome, Representative.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Senate, it's good to be over here. How are you guys doing today? All right, so in 2013, the Kansas Legislature passed what I would consider true reciprocity. We passed it to where, this is before my time in the legislature, but they passed it to where if we'd say that we acknowledged any person's concealed carry license from another state if they would acknowledge ours. And so we operated off that for about 2 years until 2015. In 2015, the state of Kansas passed constitutional carry, and in that time, we accidentally struck the true reciprocity language. About 2 years later after that, the state attorney general, Derek Schmidt, realized that that true reciprocity language is no longer there. And since then, how he testified to us in our committee, I'm sure he has his written remarks in front of you, basically there's been a number of states that have asked, well, you guys no longer have that true reciprocity language anymore. Do you still recognize our licenses? And so the problem is that we've been able to say, yes, we still recognize your licenses. However, there is a technical issue where if somebody under the age of 21, say in Missouri, they're able to carry at 19 and 20 years old, concealed carry, and they come over to the state of Kansas, they are now breaking the law. And if a law enforcement officer were to arrest this individual, they could prosecute them on having a concealed firearm under the age of 21. With basically how our current law is written. I do not know of any such cases that have occurred, but I would rather not tempt fate and would rather not have that happen to individuals when they come here to the state of Kansas. So the Attorney General, for a number of years, and we've passed it 3 times now out of the House, so thank you guys for considering this legislation. The Attorney General has pushed for the reciprocity language itself. And the reciprocity will, again, allow those other states and us to coordinate or allow those licenses. Right now, it's 39 states, Representative, that recognize Kansas's concealed carry licenses. It's 40 if you were to count Kansas itself, but we are a constitutionally carry state, so it's 40 currently, if you count Kansas. And so from there, we had the debate on the House side that if we were to allow this, there's about 13 states that allow people under the age of 21 to carry a concealed handgun. So if we were to pass this reciprocity language, then we would be allowing citizens from other states to have more rights than our own. And so we felt that it was appropriate to allow those 18, 19, and 20-year-olds to get provisional licenses here in the state of Kansas so that they would also have the same amount of rights as somebody else from another state. And they would have to go through the same training. They would have to go through all the same hoops in order to facilitate getting that license. And so that's just kind of where we're at today, you know, and as far as the other provision in here, which was formerly House Bill 2089, which is the emergency language, we did amend that over on the House side as well. And that obviously arose because of COVID-19, and the governor was doing executive orders in order to delay people from renewing their driver's licenses. Well, because of all the COVID and all the Department of Revenue offices shutting down, well, in order to get a concealed carry license, you also have to go to the same facility, and they print off the same license, except for instead of driver's license, it says concealed carry license. And so, additionally, and finally, this is my last point, when it comes to 18, 19, and 20-year-olds, they can already carry handguns. They can already open carry. If they were to just put a jacket over the top of their handgun, now they're breaking the law. So with this, it just makes it to where they go get the training, and they have the ability to conceal carry. Mr. Chairman, I will stand for appropriates at the appropriate time. I do, however, have floor action here relatively soon. So thank you.
We'll ask for questions. Does anybody have questions? Representative Carpenter. Yes. Senator Faust-Godot, on time.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So sorry for my tardiness. The weather's always bad in Wichita from there to here. Representative Blake Carpenter, so you were talking about the training. So how long is that training, and what would it entail for those 18 years of age?
Thank you, thank you, Senator, for the question. See, not used to being in the Senate over here. So right now, the people who train or who teach the concealed carry courses must submit their curricula to the Attorney General's office for approval. Once they are approved, then they will teach the law as to what it is, the Family Protection Act. You know, so you can't take, they'll do a day worth of here's what the law is, here's what your rights are. You can't take your handgun out, shoot it into the air as a warning shot. That's against the law. If you're gonna, you know, if you're gonna take your firearm out, you need to aim at the target, basically. So they teach you all the aspects of the law so you don't break it when you're concealing carrying. Additionally, what they will also tell you is that when you travel out of state, you must know what the laws of the next jurisdiction are. So if I go to Oklahoma, for instance, the laws there are different than the laws here. So I need to make sure that as a concealed carry holder, I'm following all of their laws because I am subject to their jurisdiction at that point in time. And then after they've done all of that review, the next day, so that you can either try to compact it all into one day, but mine was a 2-day course when I took it. The next day we did a shooting test, and you had to get specific shooting requirements in order to pass. And the instructor of your class would have to certify that you hit the target with the appropriate score in order to pass the class, in order to submit that to the Attorney General's office.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, so you're saying for 18-year-olds, it would just be a 2-day training, and
they would get the same training as everybody else who has a standard license currently.
And would they be required to go to certain training facilities, like in Wichita, we've got the Bullseye? I mean, is it just a public facility, or is it something where we're requiring them to go to?
Yeah, so they would have to perform a shooting test. And so when I did mine, I believe it was at the Bullet Stop. But I know that Range 54, for instance, that it's there in Kellogg on Wichita, I believe might be also in your district, maybe? Okay, yes. So they teach concealed carry courses themselves, and after they do their classroom instruction time, they do go out to the range and then shoot out at the range once they've completed the class coursework.
And Mr. Chairman, this is my last question for Representative Carpenter. So the concern now with COVID, and we're hearing that a lot of young people are having, or they're depressed because of staying in with COVID. Suicide rate is up. So how would you address that point of concern? Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator. I think that there are a number of mental health bills here within this building that have the ability to address our suicide rates. And I think that if we, make an effort to put more resources towards our mental health funding, that would greatly assist in some of those issues that you just described.
Are there any other questions for Representative Carpenter? Yes, Senator Clues.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just for a little bit of clarity, so currently you said a 18, 19, and 20-year-old can open carry.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and does that individual need any training to open carry?
No, sir.
Okay, so at 21, they could automatically conceal.
21 appears to be the magic number, sir.
Okay, so then this bill would kind of help these ones that didn't have any training get training prior to 21.
Yes, sir. And my understanding with how the bill is written, if they were to get a provisional license, those are 4-year licenses. So if you get one at 18, by the time you turn 21, that'll only be 3 years. And so your provisional license would roll into a standard license at that current point in time.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Senator.
Are there any other questions? Seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr.
Appreciate you
Chairman.
being here today. Our next lady, State Director of the Kansas NRA. Welcome, Travis.
It's good to be back in person in a state capitol. It's been a while. I mean, I'm really getting sick of WebEx and Zoom meetings and such. So this is a lot of fun, and hopefully everyone's doing well and safe and healthy. A little bit of historical context. The previous speakers have done a good job kind of explaining how we got here. I was in the House as a member of the House when we passed this change, and it's actually called universal recognition. So Kansas decided to recognize universally other states' permits. Prior to that, I believe the standard was their training and standards qualifications had to be equal to or greater than. So prior to 2013, that was the standard. For those 2 years that this was in place, we recognized other permits, period, universal recognition. That was inadvertently stricken during the constitutional carry law that was passed. Unfortunately, I don't believe anyone knew about it, thought it was intentional. It just kind of slipped through the cracks there. I don't recall any debate of anyone saying, no, we need to get rid of universal recognition at that time. I think it was just an inadvertent mistake that was not caught. So the Attorney General brought this to everyone's attention a few years back. We tried to deal with it for several terms here. The last time this bill passed out was in 2017, I believe. Passed the House, got stuck, bottled up in the Senate, and didn't go anywhere. So it's something that has been simmering for a few years and something we would like to see done. A few other points beyond my written testimony. When that did pass, universal recognition, I believe it passed 38-0, and even Governor Kelly voted for it. So it was very non-controversial at the time. Times changed, I guess, and it was a little bit more contentious now. When we passed this fix in 2017, there's a difference between how it's structured. That bill just lowered the age of our permit to 18. This one, we decided, working with Representative Carpenter on how to structure this, it was better for reciprocity if we went ahead and made it a separate provisional permit, even though the standards are all the same. So we don't potentially endanger any of our reciprocal agreements with other states that may not have permits lower than 18 or lower than 21. So it's just a protection there, gives the Attorney General's office more flexibility in how they manage those. We're pretty well maxed out. I believe Willie could speak to that further, but we're pretty well maxed out on what states we can have those reciprocal agreements with. But we certainly don't want to lose any. We want to be able to keep those numbers as high as we possibly can so Kansans can travel throughout the country and be able to do so while being able to protect themselves. So that was why it's called a provisional permit, even though it has all the same training and requirements that you have to meet to get the regular concealed carry permit that you can get when you're 21. Happy to stand for any questions. Oh, one more thing. I know Representative Carpenter was answering this question as well. But on the training, it's a simple 8-hour class on firearm safety and self-defense law. So they teach you generally what to do, how to not shoot yourself in the leg, simple things like that. But then also a lot of it is the law, because a big part of the responsibility of carrying concealed in public is understanding the law. So it's a basic class, firearm safety, self-defense law, and there is a live fire qualification at the end. So you have to prove to your instructor that you can safely hit your target at several ranges, just to make sure you're able to pass the basic qualifications at that point. And it's a good class. I really enjoyed mine when I took it back in the day, and the Attorney General's office does a good job of keeping those qualifications consistent throughout our folks across the state that choose to teach that class, to make sure that everyone basically has to go through the same or at least pretty similar training. But I'll stand for questions.
Thank you. Questions? Senator Dietrich.
Thank you so much. Thank you for being here. I think I maybe misunderstood what you said. So I wrote down that I thought I heard you say that we're maxed out on those we have reciprocal agreements with. Did you say that? Did I misunderstand that? What does that mean?
Thank you, Senator. So there's quite a few states that are just universal recognition. There's quite a few states that go, I guess they go like we used to do, where it's just, okay, this state's good, this state's good, this state's good. They approve them one by one. And then there's some states that just don't approve anybody. You have to be from that state and have their concealed carry to be able to carry in that state. California, New York, some of those states. So when I say we're pretty well maxed out, it's just unless a change happens in some of those other states' laws, we're pretty well, the Attorney General feels like we're pretty well got all the states' recognition agreements that we're going to be able to get. And they could probably speak to that even more, but yeah.
Thank you. Senator Hildebrand.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Travis, thank you for your testimony. A couple of questions, maybe. The first one is on the reciprocity, the danger of losing the reciprocity with our neighboring states. How likely is that to occur, do you believe?
Well, you hope it doesn't, but a simple change in who is the Attorney General of another state could jeopardize that. And some attorneys general may not like reciprocity periods, so they may decide, well, we're going to look for any excuse we can to remove those reciprocal agreements, and Kansas not recognizing all of our permits would be a reason to do so. So it is a legitimate fear, unfortunately, as this becomes more politicized. In the past, I don't think it was as much of a concern, but it's certainly becoming more of a concern as these issues become more contentious, unfortunately.
I know where I live. I live down in southeast Kansas. I'm a mile from Oklahoma and just a couple miles from Missouri, and I know a lot of our population is on a border state. But just referencing, if I'm in Kansas, and I know we have a lot of hunters down there that duck hunt, rabbit hunt, coon hunt, and stuff like that. If they are traveling from their house to go hunting and their firearm is open in their vehicle, they are okay because that's open carry, correct? But if for some reason they put that in their trunk, that is now concealed. Is that correct, or? can it be-
Senator, car carry is a little different. It's kind of a separate thing that has its own set of laws. So car carry is a little different, but it's a similar kind of debate, but you have to be aware of those laws. I know I think we passed car carry before we passed constitutional carry. So it's kind of one of those steps, but it is something that is a separate point of law that you have to be aware of when you're traveling for sure, but a little bit different.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that.
Any other questions? Senator Fausto-Godone.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Mr. Lovelady. Good to see you again, and I love your name.
Good to see you. I am a fan of anyone with a hyphenated name, so we're good friends going way back.
Yes. So 2 quick questions. One, so the training, is it the same amount of time that those who would be applying to be a police officer would take? That's one question. And then the other question, well, if you could answer that one, please.
Sure. No, it's an entirely different standard, as it should be. You're not just carrying concealed to protect yourself is an entirely different thing you need to be ready for than someone who's actively seeking to be a police officer and has to go through active shooter situations where you have to do a number of different requirements compared to someone who's just looking to defend themselves. So it's an entirely different standard. And
Mr. Chairman, if I may, and you may know Lovelady, but I want to know that you said an 8-hour training for the 18-year-old, and I'm just curious of what the exact hours of training it would be for a police officer. I really want to know that, if staff or someone could get that for me, please. And then the other question, so we're talking about teenagers still, and moms against gun violence. Of course, they are in opposition, and their moms. Did you have conversations with that organization to see how they felt about allowing their children to participate in this, what this legislation would do? Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
thank you, Senator. I did not have a conversation with them. I pretty well knew where they stood on this before. So,
Are there any further questions? Senator Cluse.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. In regard to the training, is it a one-time or is it ongoing after so many years? You have to retake?
sure, Senator. It's you take the class the first time you get it, and as long as you meet all the requirements for your renewal, that you just get the permit renewed. So you don't have to go through the class again, as long as you don't break the law and become a prohibited person, and they redo the background check when you do the renewal and such. So as long as you maintain that, you're going to get your permit continued.
So the renewal process, can you visit that a little bit? What's entailed in the renewal process?
Sure, the Attorney General sends out a little slip of paper telling you that, hey, it's time for your renewal. You submit it, pay the fee, they do the background check to make sure that you haven't broken the law since you first got your permit when they did the initial background check on you. And then if you pass all those requirements, then you're issued another slip of paper so you can go get your actual card, ID, picture ID of it.
So every 4 years, that process is required. Am I following that right?
5 years? 4? Okay, 4 years.
So they do a new current background check every 4 years?
Yep.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Senator Reichman.
Thank you, Mr. Leader. I think you also had to throw in $100 to get it renewed when I got mine. When we were working on constitutional carry, we had a lot of concerns from different people saying that there'd be a lot of shootings in colleges and campuses and so on. And could you address that? Has there been any shootings or anything? I mean, I have never picked up any, and I just wondering if, it's kind of piggyback off another senator's question. Thank you.
Yeah, the constitutional carry is similar but different question, but you're right, we did get a lot of that, and there hasn't really been anything to speak of. One thing we'll point out is it's easier to track permit holders for sure, as far as data we can look to for actually how many of those folks commit crimes, and they are probably the least crime statistically group of folks that you can find. Permit holders just don't commit crimes. So if we're talking about 18, 19, and 20-year-olds being able to get this permit, or permit holders from other states being able to come here and carry in this state, the chances of situations like that you speak of, that folks have said will happen, it's a very slim chance of those things happening, statistically speaking, because permit holders are among the safest folks of any group of people you can find. Absolutely sure.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Senator Ware.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the non-permitted gun owners, I'm guessing, are the majority of gun owners, because if you have the right anyway, you don't really need to do that. You'd be a rule follower if you did get a license.
Thank you, Senator. Well, it's hard to say how many folks carry without a permit. Hard to say how many did before and how many do now. But we can certainly, with the Attorney General's office, we do track those that decide to get the permit. And even with our constitutional carry laws, there's still a number of reasons why you'd want to do so. And reciprocity, being able to travel around the country, is the biggest one. Other reasons would be if you want to go purchase a firearm, since you've already passed that background check, you're able to bypass the NICS check so that you can get your firearm when you go purchase one more quickly. They take down your information on your card, and it works out, expedites the process. So there's things like that are reasons why you'd want to get it. But as far as how that goes, it's just hard to put hard data on it.
Right. I wish we had that. I'm wondering, well, I wish we'd thought of that when we were setting this up, because without data, you really don't know. You can't know about any of these questions swirling around all of this. It's a shame.
Thank you. Is there any further questions? Seeing none, thank you very much. We appreciate you being here today.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, committee.
Okay. Our next proponent is Mr. Earl McIntosh from Topeka, Kansas. Welcome, Mr. McIntosh.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee members. I appreciate the opportunity to speak on behalf of this bill. I'm here in support of House Bill 2058. I know it deals with two parts, reciprocity, and the other lowering the age to conceal carry to 18 with a provisional permit. I'm not going to talk about reciprocity. I'm here in support of lowering the age to 18 to be able to conceal carry. I completely support it. I think it'd be great benefit to the state of Kansas, and especially to the age group that will serve. I'm an NRA certified instructor. I've helped teach firearms and safety as a volunteer for the Boy Scouts Jayhawk Area Council here in Shawnee County for almost 20 years. I am not here representing the Boy Scouts at all. I'm here representing Earl McIntosh. I just want to make sure that's clear. So for the past 20 years, I've helped teach ages 5 through 20 firearms safety and instruction. For the past 6 years, there's a program within Venturing, or Scouts, called Venturing. It's for boys and girls ages 14 through 20. So for the past 6 years, I've focused on that age. So I'm very, very familiar with the age group 18 through 20. And then I want to say no one needs training more than the 18 through 20. Currently in Kansas, if you're not in Scouts or 4-H, you have no access to firearms training at all. And so no one in Kansas offers that. So if we pass this bill, that would allow and incentivize instructors across the state to offer new training and different types of courses. And so not only would they be able to teach the concealed carry, they would also teach additional classes on their own. So people who are 18 and above can follow up after their concealed carry training. Right now, as the previous speaker spoke, 18 through 20 can already open carry a firearm in their car and on their person. So this new bill will allow them the choice to learn about firearm safety and the law. But if this bill is passed, it would not just let any 18 to 19-year-old carry concealed. There's a vetting process. So obviously, what's stated before, there's an FBI background check. There's 8 hours or more training, and there could be more depending on the instructor. There also has to have a shooting qualification, and this person would have to pass all 3 of those in order to qualify for this provisional permit. In addition to that, they would have to pay $200 to $300 depending on who the instructor is. So if someone 18 to 20 sought out a concealed carry provisional permit, there's a huge commitment in that. And so it's not taken lightly. I've attached a document, and I get my information from handgunlaw.us, handgunlaw.us. I think they're the best source of concealed carry information that you can find. So I've attached a form that shows what states and how old you have to be to conceal carry. And so there's 24 states that allow some form of 18 to 20 carry. So if we pass this bill, Kansas would not be reinventing the wheel. And in those states that allow 18 to 20 carry, for the past many years, there has not been all these problems that people have been discussing. If there were, they would have changed the law. Okay, it's worth noting that in Missouri and Oklahoma, they allow 18 and above to conceal carry. Now, they also have a permit, but in Oklahoma, there's differences between the two. In Oklahoma, they allow National Guard, reserves, active duty, military to conceal carry without a permit. But if you go to Missouri, and I get this information from handgunlaw.us, they passed constitutional carry there in January of 2017. So they're 18-year-olds and above can conceal carry in Missouri without a permit. Now, they do have a permit, and their permit is 19, but I have the law number here. But I just wanted to know that 18 through 20 are concealed carrying all over the country. So it's not just, it's nothing new. I want to mention another state, and I'm not going to go through each state, Vermont. Vermont has allowed 18 and above to conceal carry since 1791. Okay, so if there would have been major issues, I'm sure Vermont would have changed their law, but that's a long time, and that's a lot of information to go from. So since 1791, they've allowed concealed carry. This law really needs to be passed in Kansas for that age group, 18 to 20. They so need it. My friends who disagree with me on firearms always tell me everybody should be permitted and everybody should go through training. Well, this is our opportunity to open up training for a group that doesn't have the opportunity to go through training. And matter of fact, when they turn 18, they can open carry, like we were saying, without a license, with no training at all. So I feel this bill is a bipartisan bill. Both sides should support the training and the background checks and I'm just for it. And as a person who's worked with young shooters for 20 years, they can easily handle it. There's, you teach young people how to shoot, you teach them about the law, they learn, they follow directions. I just don't see any problems that would come out of this because of the stringent criteria that someone would have to meet to carry between 18 and 20. So, Mr. Chairman, I appreciate you allowing me to speak. I'm very grateful to be here and the senators to listen to me. Is there any questions that anyone has for me?
Committee, is there any questions? Yes, Senator Ware.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So do you have data sources that Mr. Lovelady did not in order to be able to assure us that the bad things that people thought might happen didn't happen?
I don't know where Mr. Lovelady, I respect him, I don't know where he gets information, but I do know that we haven't seen the problems that people were saying last time. We talked about letting concealed carry in colleges. They were saying that students were going to be on campus shooting each other because they're taking drugs and their alcohol. None of that has happened. And campuses are dry. I'm talking about Kansas. Campuses are dry campuses. You can't drink or take drugs. It's illegal. They also said students were going to be getting mad at teachers and shooting teachers. I haven't seen anybody shooting teachers since this law has been passed. So I just don't have any information that says otherwise.
That's kind of a leap, though, don't you agree, that you don't see one thing, so it therefore has to be the other? I just wish we had data. I really wish we had cold, hard data that we could really rely on.
One thing we can rest assured is that the permitting process, weeds out a lot of people. And so we just haven't seen nationwide, I haven't seen where permit holders are committing crimes or doing things. So we're not talking about just anybody carrying 18 through 20. They have to go through a stringent process. And there's already laws on the books if somebody's, I don't know the number, but it's in crimes and punishments. If somebody's depressed, receiving counseling, they can't get a permit. Okay, that's already in the law. If they're on drugs or alcohol, that's against the law. So we have good data out there. We've had concealed carry for a while, and Kansas hasn't seen the problems with concealed carry permit holders. I just don't know. If somebody let me know, I'd sure appreciate it.
Senator Hildebrand.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and not a question for the conferee, but just a comment. I just DuckDuckGo to information for those of you that aren't aware of DuckDuckGo. That's my plug for a search engine other than Google. So I just looked it up, and PolitiFact did a fact check on the vast majority of crime that is gun-related is committed by people who illegally are possessing that firearm. They put mostly true. They base their assumption off of some of the facts, but they also polled convicts and asked them how they got their guns, and the vast majority of them actually did say they got them illegally. There was FBI keeps track of lawfully carried guns and unlawfully carried guns. Almost 80% of crimes committed with guns were not carried by the firearm owned by them, but by someone else. So there's plenty of facts out there to show that it's not the lawfully carrying firearm carrier, but it's the ones that break into your house and steal it. And stealing, it's a crime, so is using that for another crime. So we've already got laws against that, and they're not working. So why criminalize those that are illegally carrying?
Any further questions? Senator Faust-Godot.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, sir. So you said your main piece was the age 18-year-old factor piece in this legislation. So what is your, tell me your exact reason again for wanting to lower the age? Was it something that recently occurred, or?
Well, this just makes sense. We already allow, I have many reasons, but it's just, this is common sense gun legislation. And then, I mean, I really believe that. It should be bipartisan. We already allow 18 to 20-year-olds to open carry without any training or anything. And so now, and they have no access to training. So now we can open it up to instructors across the state in order to allow concealed carry and to get them to training. And so that's the main reason. But I have other reasons too. I believe that if you're 18 years old and you're a legally, that's what our society has said, 18-year-olds are legally adults, they should have the right to carry a firearm. And then I have a son in college. I have a daughter who's getting ready to go to college, and I want them to be able to protect themselves in case of whatever bad might happen. So.
Mr. Chairman, thank you, sir. So I have a 25-year-old and a 27-year-old, and so they're always like, "Mom, I'm 18, I'm this old, I can do this," but the life experience and the emotional mentality, I guess that's one of my big concerns. So again, in the training, the background check of it, will they be looking for like depression issues or, those emotional issues that may have occurred in that teenager's life prior to applying for?
I can't speak for the Attorney General, or I can't speak for, I'm only speaking for myself and my experience training ages 5 through 20, so that's all I'm speaking for. I'm always looking for that. We're always looking for how young people are feeling. So yes, I believe all instructors do look for that, and that's just my opinion outside of my realm of training young adults. But if we consider 18-year-olds adults, if somebody disagrees with that, change the age. I'm okay with saying 19, 20, just make it all uniform and consistent. I mean, that's really become an issue and a hot topic for everybody to talk about. But if they can fight and die for their country, they should be able to carry a firearm. And I think the permitting process really weeds things down. It's a major commitment, and especially for an 18-year-old. And usually if they don't have a mentor, I don't know if they would get a concealed carry permit. So thank you. I hope I answered your question.
Thank you. Any further questions? No, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
There were no written proponents. We'll go to the opponents. Angela Lee, Moms Demand Action. Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry. I missed one. Mr. Jason Watkins. Sorry about that.
Jason Watkins, Kansas State Rifle Association. I got my testimony in late, so I wasn't going to say anything when you didn't call on me, Mr. Chairman, and I apologize, Connie. I also apologize that when you update your testimony, you have to hit save. And if you don't, then you get the House testimony, and you will see my concern about testifying in the House that while we were supportive of addressing the reciprocity issue, we were concerned that it would not allow 18, 19, and 20-year-olds who are Kansas residents to carry concealed in their own state. I think the ground has thoroughly been plowed on this, so I won't go back over all the testimony that's been given, but I do want to emphasize the fact that this is not saying that 18, 19, and 20-year-olds get to carry a firearm. They already have that right. They can already do that. The second they put on one of these, they're committing a criminal act. So you're out with your 18-year-old, you're hunting down in Sumner County, and your son has a .22 pistol, because if you come across a snake, you're going to shoot the snake with the .22 pistol. You've got your shotgun because you're bird hunting, right? Gets a little cold as the afternoon goes along, so you put on a sweatshirt. Now all of a sudden that 18-year-old's committing a criminal act. So again, this is not giving anybody, 18, 19, 20-year-olds the right to carry a firearm. It just allows them to put on a jacket or a sweatshirt. I think another key benefit is it does require training. Right now, as previous conferees have said, you're 18, 19, 20 years old, you can open carry, no training, no background check, no nothing. Now we're gonna let you put on a jacket, but in order to do that, we're gonna make you go through training, we're gonna do a background check, we're gonna make you pay a fee. If you're concerned about 18, 19, and 20-year-olds and their responsibility in carrying a firearm, you should be the folks that champion this, because now there is training required. So we appreciate the time today, Mr. Chairman. I would appreciate the bill being passed out favorably, and of course, happy to answer questions.
Thank you. Is there any questions? Yes. Oh, Senator Fausto.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Vice Chairman, for recognizing me. Jason, do you have knowledge of the background check prior? I think earlier someone's testimony mentioned the FBI, and that information is in that background check, the status of one's mental status. Thank you.
Yeah, I think, and Willie or somebody from the AG's office may be better to answer that. The background check, I think, deals with criminal history, but there is a questionnaire that relates to drug and alcohol use and mental health issues.
Okay. Yes. Willie, do you want to expand on that?
Yes, and I
State your
believe, do
name.
we have our attorneys
Willie,
available?
state your name first.
Willie Prescott with the Attorney General's office. I believe we have people online. Have they signed in yet? We have representatives from attorneys from the Attorney General office. They should be available.
Okay.
Questions?
I don't know. Sarah Miller and Charles Mashiers, are they online? I hadn't heard them.
I thought they were anyway, but anyway. But yeah, they would be able to fill us in the exact, what's required on the form. You know, we've got staff there that will monitor and advise, so.
Okay, thank you. And yes, Jason, I think we have a couple questions for you again. Senator Hildebrand.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We've heard a lot of discussion about data and the lack of data. Is that something that Kansas Rifle Association would differ any from the NRA, that data is not out there? Would you like to, anything to clarify on that?
No, I was listening to those questions being asked, and no more data than what's been mentioned. The one thing that I would say is there were some concerns by the law enforcement community when we made these changes years ago. I think they're on the front lines of this. They're the ones that see what's happening and not happening. I've been working on Second Amendment issues and gun bills now for, I think, the last 5 or 6 years. Law enforcement has not been coming in and saying, hey, you've got to go back and change what you did a few years ago. We're just not hearing from them that this is an issue. And so, yeah, that doesn't answer the data question, but we'd be hearing from our friends in law enforcement if this were an issue. The other side of this is you have a constitutional right to own a firearm. In this state, we say you have constitutional carry, the right to conceal carry. I appreciate data as much as the next person. I'm not terribly excited about government having a wealth of data when it comes to what I do with my Second Amendment right to own and carry firearms.
Travis Lovelady.
Mr. Chairman, excuse me. I think a little clarification is needed. And I appreciate you giving me a little leeway on this. The problem with having data on this is we cannot track how many Kansans own firearms and are carrying them legally under constitutional law, under the constitutional carry law. We don't know. There's no way for us to know that. We're not tracking who does this, and there's no way for us to track who does this. So to say we have data on the number of them that commit crimes versus the number of them that don't commit crimes it's impossible to track. So when I say we don't have data, there's really no way for us to have data except for to do a survey and you say, hey, do you carry constitution without a permit? And even then it's still who answers the survey, what kind of data we can get on that. So it's really not something we can track. Now, permit holders, we can track. We know who they are. We know if they commit crimes. So we have hard data on that specifically for sure. But those that carry constitutionally without a permit, there's no way for us to know how many people do that and how many of what percentage of those people commit crimes. Kansas doesn't have any kind of registry of that nature. So that I just wanted to clarify that, and I can answer more questions on that if we have them, but.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification. Now we'll have our opponent's testimony. Angela, thank you. Wait a minute, wait, excuse me. One more question.
I'm so sorry,
That's
just a quick one.
Senator Dietrich.
So anybody who's testified that can answer this. So I just need to get this clear in my own thinking. So if you're an 18-year-old and you fail the background check to get your permit to conceal carry, you could still open carry, correct? There's nothing preventing that? Am I correct in that statement? No? I would like to answer that. Would you want to come up to the mic to do that so it's on record?
Come on up, Mike.
State your name again.
My name is Earl McIntosh. I'm here representing myself. And let me just make sure I understand your question since I lost my train of thought here. You just want to know if they fail the background check, whether they could still open carry? Yes. Well, that just depends. So we have I'll email you the number to the crimes and punishment bill that gives you when you can't carry a gun, whether you have a permit or not. So if they fail because they've been mentally adjudicated, no, they can't open carry. So if they are addicted to drugs and alcohol, they can't open carry. So there are rules in place to protect against that. And I will email you the bill. Does that answer your question for now?
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Third time is a charm, Angela.
Thank you.
Please state your name.
My name is Angela Lee. I'm with Moms Demand Action, and I am also a gun survivor ×2. I've not only lost one child, but I've lost two. One right here in Topeka, Kansas. And we're going to talk about justice today, and I want everybody, I know that there's been a lot of testimony today for carrying guns, and I want you to take a look at this picture, and this is the last picture that I have of my child that I will ever have. And I want you to put yourself in a moment to think about what if this was your family member. I lost my first child June 26, 2017, here in Topeka, Kansas, during the highest, it was the record year of homicides. He was number 16. He had just graduated from Shawnee Heights High School in May and lost his life the next month before he could go to college. I was on vacation, and I'm gonna tell you what, it was the worst experience I've ever had, not knowing what was gonna happen. I was in Texas, headed on my way back. My son was gone before I even got here. I never got to say goodbye. I never got to say, I love you. And it was the worst to have to long drive home, just to have to go over everything in my mind. What? Because nobody was telling me anything. He was killed by juveniles. 2 of them were ultimately convicted. 1 of them, due to our laws, even though he played a part, he's free. This just happened in 2017. He's free. He's out walking the streets, living his life. They found the gun in a unlocked car. I can't go after the responsible gun owner of whoever left their car unlocked with their gun in it. So in an instant, lives are changed, not only mine, but for those families of the young men that killed my child. Jessica was killed in Texas. We lost her January 1st of 2021. Had to watch her son get presented the flag because she got full military honors for 12 years. She wasn't killed by somebody overseas or any foreign. She was killed on the freeways of Texas. She put 12 years of her life into the military. So it can happen to anybody. And for people, I guess I'm a little bit off of what I'm going to say, but I just want to say this from a personal level. We've talked a lot about people's rights to carry guns. What about these individuals that will never, they could have been your constituents. They will never have the right to carry a gun. They will never have the right to vote or do things that the Constitution afforded them the opportunity. This is all political. This is all money motivated. And it's hurtful because I can't get them back. No matter what I do, I come out here, I do stuff in the community, I give back. I am not saying that people don't have the rights, but at 18, when I faced them two individuals that took my son's life, all they could do was say, I'm sorry, if I could take it back. That doesn't help my heart. Justice didn't even get a chance to see if he could go to the NFL. How many kids in this country got to die? And a lot of them say, oh, well, there's no data to show. Nationally, why are we waiting for kids to die here in Topeka, Kansas, or Wichita, or Kansas City? Because they are dying. It may not be in college shootings. Parkland is the perfect example. Yes, in Florida, but why are we going to wait until it happens here? My kids don't have the chance. They will not have the chance to get up here. This is what I do. And as much as it hurts, it does. I am a mother, and I every day help kids overcome what they felt. Justice had a lot. It was a standing room funeral. There was people that couldn't even get in there, over 600 people that loved that kid. And I help them every day. Some of them we've lost to suicide because they can't deal with life. There's no test, ladies and gentlemen, that are going to be able to gauge if that person fills out a survey and says, I'm not an alcoholic, because if you've dealt with alcoholism, alcoholics don't even know they're alcoholics. They're going to tell you to your face, no, I'm not an alcoholic. So why are we going to, if it's not that critical, why are we waiting? Why not lower the age to drink and everything else down if we think that, oh, they're an adult? But these kids, not everybody's mature at 18. They have no house to protect, so what are they protecting? And I'm sorry, the last time I see in Topeka, Kansas, we're not hunting. There's no hunting grounds here. This is all about money. So what are my children's lives worth? That's what I want to know. Because I'm a constituent, I'm a law-abiding citizen, and I'm telling you what, you can do all the training that you want, but you get into a situation where somebody breaks into your house or just anything in general, you better be prepared to shoot them. Because that adrenaline, I'm telling you what, you may be able to hit the bullseye when but you're in a situation where it's life or death. Are you going to be able to hit that target? The gentleman that killed Justice, that shot him, told us in court, I thought I was going to die. My son had no gun. They went to rob him. He shot him in the back twice. He didn't know how to shoot a gun. He said, I just started shooting. these 18 to 20-year-olds are the ones out here doing these things and out here taking these lives at nearly 4 times higher than adults. Just fathom that we want to sit here when these children should be worrying about going to prom or playing their sport of choice or taking the SAT and what college they're supposed to go to, and we just think that it's okay. They don't have a house to protect. They don't have anything really of real value and property unless they've really got, because I don't know how many 18-year-olds own their own home and things to be able to protect. But we're going to fathom turning around and putting a gun in their hands. And we see it every day. No, we haven't had a whole lot of major incidents here, but I'm telling you what, that in 2017, those 30 lives that were lost here in Topeka, the record year, that should be enough to put aside. They can wait till they're 21. Till we get it right. We owe these kids the benefit. Yeah, these kids that want to carry these guns, that may be your, but what about their rights? They deserve to live. They didn't deserve to die at 18 and 30. Jessica has a son, a 10-year-old son, that's now going to grow up without his mother. I'm asking that you think about your own family. What if this was yours? We can't guarantee. None of this, even if there is data out there, we cannot guarantee that it will not happen here. We can't guarantee that people are not going to die. We can't. It doesn't matter how much training. So to me, it's all about, I know that most 18-year-olds can't even figure out what they're going to eat, and we're expecting them to learn the laws of other states. They're not going to. They're not going to research what Oklahoma does. They could care less because that's what they've been taught is, oh, I have the right to do it, so okay. I as a grieving mother, I oppose HB 2058. I think it undermines the community safety for our kids that we owe that to. Even though they're 18, doesn't mean that they are mature enough to be making a decision, especially in a situation that you don't know how their adrenaline and how they're going to react. They may hit that bullseye, like I said, when they go to that shooting range, but 8 hours ain't enough to cram down somebody's. We require more for driver's ed. I mean, and we're going to give them that little bit. So I just want to never have a parent have to go through, this is the last picture of their child they will ever see. Because I'm going to tell you what, I'd trade places with any one of you in here to have my children back. Thank you.
Thank you, Angela. Are there any questions? Senator Pascadeau.
Mr. Chairman, no question, but I just wanted to extend my condolences, and I hear you as a mother. I hear you, and thank you for standing there and sharing your story. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Any other comments? Thank you, Angela, for being here. Our next opponent is Mary Snipes, and she is Mothers Demand Action on remote. Mary, are you there?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right. Good morning. Dear Senate, Federal and State Affairs Committee, my name is Mary Snipes. I am a constituent from Gary County, City of Junction City, Kansas, 66441. I am also a mother, a parent, a wife, a sister, an aunt, a friend, a COVID survivor, and a gun violence survivor. I am submitting testimony because I don't want another family or mother to go through the pain of feeling unsafe and emptiness. My family's life changed on Friday, August 31st, 2018, when an individual shot and took our 29-year-old son, Felix Snipes, away from us. Felix had an awesome smile, would tell jokes that sometimes weren't funny, but you just had to laugh. He cried deeply, and he cared about his siblings and parents. He was such a caring individual. Felix was free-spirited. He loved wearing loud neon colors, but he also enjoyed dressing up as if he was a model. He wanted everyone to get along with each other, especially family. Felix cared about giving to others even when he didn't have anything. He was one of the top-ranked athletes in the state of Kansas for sports during his high school years. We have had so many great memories and lovable moments of Felix that I could go on and on. Felix was and is our child, our son, a brother. He was not a number. I miss him every day. Losing a child is like a form of emptiness. This is my reality. I am submitting testimony concerning carrying concealed handguns into our state and letting teenagers carry hidden loaded handguns in public. I oppose this bill because it would allow people with permits from other states, including teenagers, certain convicted stalkers, and people who have never fired a handgun to carry hidden loaded handguns in public throughout Kansas. This bill would make our families, communities, schools, homes, neighborhoods, parks, and stores unsafe. We have gone through anger, hurt, pain, denial, questioning why, many emotions, but we will keep going. There have been so many families throughout Kansas in which lives have been impacted and forever changed. But gun violence, and we should think of preventable solutions for our state, families, schools, communities, neighborhoods, parks, and stores. And we also need to think about 18 to 20-year-olds commit gun homicide at a rate of 4 times greater than those over 21 years of age. This is a dangerous bill. Please reject HB 2058 and put the welfare, security, and safety for Kansas constituents first. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Are there any questions? Thank you very much for being here today. We appreciate your story. Next, we have Crystal Hayes, and she is also on remote. Crystal, are you there?
Yes, sir, I am.
Proceed.
My name is Crystal Hayes. I am a lifelong resident of Kansas City, Kansas, a survivor lead, mentor, and survivor fellow with Moms Demand Action and Every Time for Gun Safety. I am submitting testimony in opposition to Bill HB 2058, which would automatically allow individuals with permits from other states to carry hidden and loaded firearms in Kansas on the streets of our communities, a community that continues to battle repeated incidents of gun violence. Being a survivor of gun violence repeatedly, you lose a sense of security and safety, even in your own home. The fear of the unknown is heightened to a fever pitch in our communities. Even during something as necessary as going to the grocery store to shop for a family meal induces re-traumatization. Not knowing if you will be the next victim or the witness to gun violence. Not knowing if the person in front of you should even be considered a threat to your already lack of sense of security. A person you may not already know personally. You don't know if that person, if or what incidents of trauma they are experiencing. You don't know if the individual is struggling with some form of mental illness that induces unexpected impulsive reactions to violence. You don't know if the individual has already exhibited violent tendency or has previously been involved in incidents in which a handgun was used. You don't know, in fact, if the individual even has a permit to carry. The training had the training in using the firearm or some other form of safety protocol. And they might not be local. They might not even be a Kansas resident, meet Kansas standards for concealing carry permit. Yet the law passes, if this law passes, they might legally carry hidden and loaded firearms. As a community leader, community activists, advocates, and lawmakers, we should not contribute to the delinquency of minor children by allowing them to carry hidden, loaded handguns in public. As we as leaders need to prioritize keeping our community safe and not pass this law that increases the risk of gun violence. Thank you, Chairman and committee members.
Thank you, Crystal. Is there any questions or comments? Thank you again for being here today. We appreciate that. The next opponent is Margaret Kramer. And Margaret, are you online?
Yes, I unmuted and I will attempt. Can you hear me? I'll attempt to start the video.
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay, maybe the video isn't going to work. Okay. My son has a poker face. We're really surprised when he dropped by unexpectedly last Friday and broke his side. His best friend, about 20 years old, had the intent to shoot himself. This is not a rational age group because they do not take the long view. Breaking up with a girlfriend, being in debt, or getting fired from a job can be the end of the world. About 70% of the homicides in Kansas are attributable to suicide, and many of these are young people. Having a gun at home to protect the family is one thing. Carrying a concealed gun in public is another. A police officer told my class that if there is an active shooter situation, law enforcement will shoot at whoever is shooting. They don't have time to sort it out. Therefore, the citizen vigilante who takes the law into his own hands is as likely to be shot as a criminal. If someone wants a gun for protection, what's wrong with mace? Or as we learned about lately, bear spray. If someone homicide and a jury determines that it was not justifiable self-defense, that person may find himself or herself behind bars for a long, long time. Also, whether or not you were elected when we debated campus carry a few years ago, the argument for guns on campus, where they absolutely don't belong for the above reasons, was that because the legal age to carry a gun is 21, only the seniors and graduate students might have them. Lowering the concealed carry age to 18 totally destroys that argument. As people of faith, we know that God repeatedly tells us, fear not, fear not, trust in Him. If we allow more and more people to have guns, under more and more circumstances, we will have more and more gunshot deaths. I challenge anyone to argue otherwise. But equally importantly, what kind of community will we have created if everyone is carrying a gun and you might lose your life to an armed person when shopping at Walmart? Thank you very much for your consideration. And I stand for questions.
Thank you, Margaret.
I guess, any.
Yes, thank you, Margaret. Do we have questions? Yes, Senator Palscado.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ma'am, did you say you were a school teacher?
I taught at the University of Kansas. And when we were debating campus carry, I had a police officer come and speak to my class. And he said to them, hey, you think you're going to get a gun to protect yourself? If you're out there shooting, it's a good chance that law enforcement is going to shoot you.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, so I think there's only 2 of us on this committee currently who was on the committee during the hearing of carrying on college campuses. I remember there were 400 people that signed up, Mr. Chairman, in opposition of the legislation, and 3 people testified in favor of the legislation, and it passed, even though 400 people were in opposition. So, and I'm thankful that no major problems have occurred. I represent Wichita State University in Wichita, and I've not heard of any major problems occurring. But, Mr. Chairman, I also want to say that I just received an email from Sunny Smith, who her 9-year-old son, this would be the 2nd year, he was killed at a play date by his 8-year-old friend because the lock box in the home was broke. I introduced Royale's Law to advocate for perhaps lock boxes having the thumbprint to open them, and I am concerned too. I think you mentioned, Margaret, is that your name?
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am. I think you mentioned, did you mention suicides or in your statement, and what was your comment on that, just to reiterate? Thank you.
According to statistics that Moms Demand Action has in Kansas, 70% of the homicides are due to suicide. You know, not self-protection or any of that other stuff. 70% are due to suicide. So when there's a gun in the home, it is most likely to be used against someone in the home, either the teenager shooting himself or in domestic violence situations.
Are there any other questions or comments? Not, thank you very much, Margaret. We also have in your packets, committee, 12 written opposition. Please take and read those. And if there's nothing else before the committee is adjourned. Thank you.